Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Faith and Fandom podcast. Today, I'm excited to have Rebecca Godlove with us. You want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. In, I guess, sequential order, I am a writer. I am a Christian. I am a performer. I am a wife, a mom, a minister, and a cat lady. I am from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I've lived here. I will probably die here. I don't know. Hopefully not anytime soon. And I am a licensed minister through Faith Christian Fellowship International. And my home church, which has been my home church for, I can't do math, since 1996. So a good while now.
That's a long time to be in one church.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes. And it is in the South Hills of Pittsburgh. And through this church, I have been on the worship team. I've worked with the kids. I've worked with the youth. I've worked with the women's small group. And right now, obviously, things are a little different, but I'm also in charge of our drama department. Obviously, we haven't done any, shows lately. But we do have a variety show coming up. We've never done that before. So that's going to be our sort of Christmas festival. So I'm looking forward to that.
So, out of all of that, like, is there a vocation in there? Like, what's your like, do you have a paid job?
I do not. It's not a paid job, but my boss is a 3.5-year-old. He basically decides what we do every day, what I feed him every day. No, I am officially, I guess you could say, I'm a stay-at-home mom. But previously I've worked at a very well-known coffee company. I've also worked banking. I have done medical billing. I've kind of done a little bit of everything. Ideally, when things start to lift up, quarantine restrictions start to lift up, I would love to be a traveling speaker to churches and community centers.
Because we had you on the docket to try and bring you for in May.
Well, you guys can put me on next year if you're able to, if you want to. I would love to do that. I would love to. I also want to work with churches that maybe don't have any kind of dramatic arts ministry. Maybe get them built up, get people comfortable, because that's so valuable when you go to share your own testimony. The skills that you learn as a theater person, you learn how to be comfortable in front of other people. You learn how to articulate, how to speak well, how to speak clearly, and those things go a long way when you're sharing something that important as, either your personal testimony or when you're sharing about just Jesus in general with others.
And, with the paid job thing, that wasn't any kind of slight on anything you're saying. It's just for the amount of things you do, I'm like, that just says you do too much to have something take up 8 hours of your day where you can't multitask.
Yeah, definitely. That is absolutely true. I could probably, I feel like I could do like Animal Crossing 8 hours a day. Maybe, or
I could have in May and April, and I don't know if I could now, but I can still get in there.
Yeah, my kids, we just discovered, I guess, what Luigi's Haunted Mansion, or Luigi's, I don't know what it's called, but that's their new obsession. So they want, like, that they do it with Daddy. That's Daddy's game. So that's their new thing right now. And they oh my gosh, my 6-year-old told me something about vacuuming a toilet, and I was like, because my husband does most of the cleaning in our house, praise Jesus. And I was like, is that something Daddy did? Like, did Daddy do that? What are you talking about? And he told me Luigi will take the vacuum, I guess, to get ghosts. I'm really glad I know that now and didn't think that my husband was vacuuming our toilet.
Hey, if it works.
We're all boys, so that wouldn't surprise me if
shop vacuuming a toilet is not the worst idea I've ever heard. But that was one of the things, like, early on when I met my wife, she worked at a church that she did full-time work but didn't get paid for it. And I just remember in like my 19-year-old self, I was like, so you don't actually have a job. And that was 19-year-old me, who now, on the other side of that, realizes that most of us put more passion into the things that aren't our bill payer.
Absolutely.
And so it's the stuff that we care about that usually gets the best part of us.
Yeah.
But that's the thing I've noticed about you. You care about a lot of things.
I do. Sometimes not the things I should care about. I should probably care more about my physical health. I should probably care more about like making sure the dishes are done. um, no, I'm not a very good housekeeper. I will tell you that right now. I can tell you what I'm not good at. I'm not good at taking care of my house. I'm not really good at keeping in touch with people, to be honest with you. I'm a good communicator, but I'm not a great follow upper. I don't know if that makes sense, but
Oh, it makes complete sense.
yeah, I'm not good at that. I'm trying to get better at that. I'm trying to learn consistency. That's probably um when it comes to goals, I think you love to have that list of like, oh, I'd like to whatever, get healthy. I'd like to be able to afford a new car or whatever it is. My number one goal right now is to become a more consistent person in pretty much every facet of my life. That's my goal.
That's an awesome goal. So I know I've heard on your podcast, which by the way, tell us what your podcast is real quick before I
Okay.
go
Yeah,
too
it's
far with that.
actually it's been around for about 2 months now. It is called Retrofitted, and it is geared specifically towards Zennials. I did not know what a Zennial was. Yeah, I know. Like me, it's for me. It's for me and my people, my tribe. A Zennial is technically, we are the sort of micro generation between Generation X and Millennials. And I don't even think I really knew what a Zennial was until I realized I really wasn't a millennial. I mean, technically, if you want to, I'm technically an old millennial because I was born in 81, but Zennials, or the Oregon Trail generation, we are people that were born roughly from like the mid 70s to the mid 80s. And the the hallmark of a Zennial basically is that we grew up with an analog childhood. We grew up with 8 tracks and record players, and that.
VHS.
Yeah, yes, yeah, exactly. And as we matured into young adults, the digital age was being born really. And so when we were young adults, when we were in, high school and college and post college, we had things like MySpace, we had cell phones, we had, instant messaging, we had AIM. So we grew up with social media. And we're still, I think, as a generation and as a culture, trying to figure out the balance, what that should look like what a healthy social media. I'm not there.
I don't
I
think
would love
anybody
to be able
is.
to come at you from this place of like, I've discovered it. I know exactly how to manage, my time, and I'm not good at it at all.
Well,
Um,
I think that's one of the things too, is like, because we are the first generation to go through it, we're also like, we're seeing it pop up with younger folks, and just how much it's escalated in the last 10 years.
yeah,
And so
yeah,
it's a different world.
we're kind of like the guinea pigs. We were, and now we're seeing what went wrong with the experiment. Like, if you give someone a computer in their hand that they can carry around all day and look at all day, they're gonna carry it around all day and look at it all day. Like, and then their kids want to do it. You know, no, but the podcast itself is geared toward that sort of age range. Obviously, I share topics that a much wider range of people may be interested in. We just spent the past 4 weeks talking about the mental health crisis in America and in the church. And I guess, I don't know if I'd say my ideal listener, but my goal listener would actually be someone who maybe grew up in the church, but has sort of since either walked away or fallen away or just kind of faded away. And the reason for that is I I want to use the podcast as a way to sort of, the word atone is pretty heavy, but kind of atone for some of the wrongs that the church has, um, I guess you could say committed. That's another big, like, heavy word. But some of the things I did wrong as a young Christian, as a young believer, and as a young person, some of the things that I was taught that are not actually biblical, that are not actually scriptural, a lot of the things that we've been taught about God that are not true, they're nowhere in the Bible. I want to and that's why I call it retrofitted, because I would like to take who we are now and kind of go back and fix us, if that makes any sense. Like, put back faith and spirituality into our lives, because a lot of us have just let that part of let that part of our existence go. We've either been hurt by the church, or we've been confused by the church, or or heaven forbid, but we've been either harassed or antagonized by the church, in general, hopefully not a specific church, but in general. Um, and I want to go back and make that right for people. That's really important to me, because so many people I know have a really messed up view of God and faith. And a lot of them I know really, really need to know how much God loves them, and that there's no actual qualifications for his love. I think a lot of people do not believe that, or have never really heard that. And I want them to know that, because I think that is the start to actual freedom, to learning about who you are, and to being the best person in this world that you can be.
That's a heavy load for a podcast.
Yeah, I know, right? But we do a lot of fun stuff too.
You,
I talk about candy from the 80s. Like I talked about Gem, one of my favorite cartoons growing up. So I try to balance out the spirituality, and it actually probably sounds to your listeners that like it's a really deep spiritual podcast, and it's actually not. I don't do a lot of, like, I'm not a preacher. I'm a licensed minister, but I'm not a preacher. I'm not a pastor. I'm much more of a teacher. I'm a history person, so I love to share history in my podcasts, not just about the stuff that we grew up with, but I talked about Miriam in one of my episodes, and I talked about her history and the history of the Egypt into which she and her famous brothers Moses and Aaron were born. So I mix things up. I don't want to be off-putting. Like, I wouldn't call it a religious podcast. I wouldn't.
on the flip side, though, too, one of my favorite things about your podcast, outside of the pop culture and the faith, because those are things I love, but on the other end, you really do put a lot of practical yet untouched things in it, like the way you handle mental health, the way you talk about medication, the way you talk about miscarriages, which is, I know, not easy for a lot of people, and it's not vocal.
Oh, yeah.
And I've seen what that looks like firsthand. Actually, the day that one published, like maybe it was the second part of it, but like the day one of those published, one of the ladies on my ministry team had just told me in private that she was going through one. And I pulled her aside. I was like, look, I don't throw things at you that I don't vet and vouch for. And she's a sensitive person, and I try to listen for trigger warnings for things for her, because like one of the songs, one of my favorite song right now, probably, unless it's changed in the last week, is a song called Yes Song by KB. And like it's a banger, but it's beautiful. It's got a little worship aspect to it. And one of my things month to month is that I plan the music out of my DJ heart that goes in the lobby and the auditoriums before and after services. So I try to usually like layer it up with what we're teaching and everything else, and but also make it slap. And
yeah, you have a director's mind. Like, that's how my mind works. Like, it all has to be connected, because there's always a purpose and there's always a meaning behind like everything. Yeah. Oh yeah.
And the like one of the next to last lines in Yes Song says it's talking about how good of a father God is, and then but he says, "You have my baby, and you won't miscarry me." And I'm like, I just remember like, yeah, see, I got goosebumps. The first time I heard it, I'm like, oh snap, that's great. But I was like, I can't put this in our lobby music without talking to my person first. And so
that's awesome that you had that, though. Like, I mean, that's not, like, there are some people in the world that would say, oh, you're treating her like a snowflake. But to me, that is just your heart saying, no, if I make a choice that hurts someone, that hurts me. That's awesome that you like.
But that was, but like I had that conversation with her. I was like, hey, look, here's the lyrics. Also, I think you should listen to it because it'll minister to you. But then I literally was like, and I listened to every episode of your podcast at that point. And I was like, hey, and I think this will bless you. I was
Oh,
like, she's a Zennial too. Like we're like literally same bubble. Like she might be a year behind me. Um, but I was like, you should listen to this, and I think this will help your heart. And
send her my information if like she wants to talk, because I mean, I hate to say it, but I'm kind of a professional on having, I mean, like no one ever wants to be a professional at losing children, but we lost 3 before we were able to actually have, to carry a pregnancy to term. And so I feel like I've experienced many different aspects of it. They were 3 completely different losses. So I feel like I know what I'm talking about. And I also feel like I know how to listen. And man, I would just, yeah, I would love to, if she wants to talk, because I know that's another thing. Like, I didn't want to talk right away. It took me a long time before I could actually physically talk. Like, I blogged about it that day, but I couldn't talk to people for
you're an Enneagram
a while.
person, right?
Yes, I'm a 4. I'm a
Okay.
4-5.
Okay. She's a hard 5.
Okay.
So
Okay. Yeah.
so she's not real vocal and when it comes to things like that, but like that's the thing, like I gave her all your info and
Okay,
everything out
wonderful.
like the day that we talked about. But that's one of the things I think that your podcast, and I know you're just getting started in a lot of ways, but I think that your stuff is really polished, um and not just the script aspect of it, but like I think your heart is well thought out. Because usually if you ever so I work on my pastoral team. We have, I don't know, we have like 7 pastors. Like 3 of us are like, we are actually paid to be the pastors of each location for the different locations for our church.
Mhm.
Then we have pastors that just teach. They may not be on our staff, but they teach. And but like when we're writing out our sermons, like we'll all get together on a Monday, like 3 weeks in advance, and like lay out our notes, write out our sermons, and then everybody's sitting in the room like, nah, change this, do this. Oh, this would be dope. Oh, and then it literally turns into like, a diss session, like, oh, snap, you would be dope. That's scripture. And we get really excited about the Bible verses.
Awesome though. That's like church should be like that. You know what I mean? It should be as exciting for the people sharing it as the people going. I think.
Pre-COVID, we used to do that meeting at our local Panera Bread every week. And at least once a month, somebody had to tell us to calm down because we were getting too excited. But we're all friends with the folks there. But when we're writing these things and when we're looking at them, some of our folks are like hardcore. They'll write out, because we write it out so that everybody can read over it. But
Oh yeah.
there'll be folks that'll literally memorize an 8-page sermon.
No.
Memorize it. And or they'll read it onto a like a audio file and listen to it for days and days. And coming out of like my theater background and camp and everything else, I'm like, I'm gonna have some bullet points, and I'll hit scripture, bullet point, and everything else in between will be fine. And that's like, I'm not gonna be that person. Like, so a lot of times when I'm podcasting, I'll literally have 3 bullet points. I need to hit these things at some point. And but you, like, one of the things that I really loved when I started listening to your podcast was that it's articulate and organized, but I think one of the things that's beautiful about that is it's succinct and efficient. Like you hit the heart like with the right balance of everything, and I really love that.
Yeah, that's I could probably talk a whole lot more, but I wouldn't be saying a lot more. So that's another thing that it was really exciting for me. And the first couple came out naturally around like 20 minutes, like just sort of on their own. And I was like, wait a minute, this is like this works for me. It's not too much writing for me. It's about like 6 pages or so. But it wasn't too much talking and too much filler. So yeah, I did it. I achieved balance at one point, at one thing anyway. I've achieved balance, like nirvana, at the content and the quality and the timing. But yeah, I don't want to shy away from issues. they're important to Zennials, because that means they're important to people, and the issues that are important to us are important to God. And one of the things that I realized sort of growing up in the church, I grew up in a very, I guess, yeah, I mean, word of faith background. So it was all like, you need more faith. You need to, to speak things that are not as though they are. And I know that's scriptural. But when you see people struggling with depression and anxiety, and, and they're being told you don't have enough faith, or, someone passes away from, horrible, from cancer or something. And it's, did we not pray hard enough? Like, did we not use the right words? Was God, did we do something to offend him? Was he not listening? Like, there are so many questions that you can't answer by simply saying, well, you just didn't have enough faith. And the mental health question, the mental health problem is absolutely one of those. In fact, most of the people that I personally know that have mental health issues are Christians. And I'm not equating because they're Christians, they have mental health issues. But I am saying that it doesn't make them exempt from having anxiety, depression, bipolar disorder. I could list at least 5 or 6 more of the things that my friends and associates have been diagnosed with. And yeah, a lot of them go into therapy. A lot of them take medication. I have a friend who's not a believer, but she's even tried, I don't think they call it electric shock therapy anymore. I don't think that's like an un-PC term now, but, she's even used treatments to try to help alleviate her struggles and her pain. And that's not something that God is too weak or small to handle, like those big questions that we have about mental health. It's not like it scares him or shocks him or takes him off guard. So yeah, I'm going to continue to discuss things like mental health and miscarriage and, the identity of God. Why is he good if bad things happen? And how, in the Old Testament, we see this God, and then he seems totally different in the New Testament. Why? Well, I mean, there's a bridge there, and I think why. But a lot of people don't understand that. A lot of people don't want to do the study themselves, and I understand that it can be very off-putting. So here I am. I will do the research for you. I will explain it to you. I'm happy to do that. I'm a huge dork, and I like to read, and I like to research, and I love to find out new things. And I mean, that's why my kid dressed up like Alexander Hamilton for Halloween. Like, we found
dope,
out.
by the way.
I was so proud. I even asked him, like, I'm like, do you want to dress up as Luigi for school dress up day, or do you want to be Alexander Hamilton? And he told me Alexander Hamilton, and I'm not kidding you. Like, my geeky heart exploded, and my theater mom heart exploded, and then my costume design heart exploded. And the best part, I will tell you, his teacher was singing Hamilton songs all day, and everyone but one kid in his class knew who he was, and this is kindergarten. So anyway, that was way off topic, and I'm so sorry. But
well, when you put Hamilton on Disney Plus, that's going to happen.
I know. We actually entered. We did this totally last minute. I signed up my kids to go trunk or treating at our local park a week before Halloween, and at the very last minute, we decided we were going to give candy out. I'm like, okay, like, let's do this. You have your costume, and I have my 17th century, giant dress and petticoat and mob cap. I said, let's just do it. So we put up some signs. Like, we had my janky minivan, my mom van with all these scrapes and fender, all this nastiness on it. And we put up a sign that says young, scrappy, and hungry for candy. And then we put up a sign that said happy Hamilween. So out of 25 vehicles, we won 3rd prize, and I didn't even know there was a contest.
Yes.
So, it was so cool. We ended up winning a $15 gift certificate to a local ice cream, a sweet shop. So that was very cool. But I will be honest with you, there was some much, much better decorations than our car. So I think we won just by virtue of the fact that I put my kid in a pair of britches.
Well, the costumes were strong. I can't speak to the car, but the costumes were strong.
It's fun. It was very fun.
So just to ask on that note, what Hamilton song gets played the most in your house?
Okay, by request. Well, okay. So my 3-year-old is straight up King George right now. He is a
Okay.
Slytherin. So we play that a lot and we call it his song. And then Ronan's favorite, my older son's favorite, is the Canon song.
Yeah.
So we listen to Right Hand Man a lot. And I like Skylar Sisters, of course, because I like to sing all the different parts, because that's what altos do. We never get the melody. So I take it and then I'll play it again for the harmony. Um, and then what else? I think we really sort of do a lot of act one in our household.
It's a
Mostly
better act on its own, honestly. But
but yeah, I would say like I literally woke up to my kid playing You'll Be Back on repeat on Alexa. Like, and at one point my husband was like, I'm gonna actually play oldies right now. Like I'm gonna play the Beatles because I don't think I can do this anymore. And my husband is not an oldies fan. He likes his 90s like grunge alt rock. So I
don't tell him, but 90s is technically oldies now.
oh my gosh, the first time I heard Billy Joel on like our local oldies station, I thought I had the wrong station on. It was chilling. It was haunting. And then I heard Madonna. I'm like, oh my gosh, I am old. Like I'm old.
When I heard Hootie and the Blowfish on an oldie station, I'm like, oh, it's over. It's
Oh my god.
bury me now. We're
like, Britney Spears is borderline classic rock now, right? Like
yes.
I mean,
We're my kids are really big on guns and ships.
yes, yeah, okay. That's fair.
I'm a Washington guy, like Right Hand Man, and what's the one teach him how to say goodbye? Like One Last Time.
Yes.
Oh, that's like I have I have all these dream theater roles that I don't fit that I want.
Same.
Yeah, I know you do. And like after I made it to literally, it was like when he got to the just a millisecond thing, which is only like his third line. I'm like,
Oh, I know.
That's
him.
That's who I want to be. Like I hadn't even made it through a quarter of the play, and I'm like, that's my guy. And because like I've got those. Like I want to I would in a minute, face whatever backlash it took for me to play Collins in Rent. Like I just like what is it? I'll Cover You reprise.
Yeah.
That is bone chilling to me. I love that one.
Yeah.
But there's
that show is like 800 years old now too.
Oh, it is.
Because we're old.
Have you listened to the Hamilton mixtape?
Not yet. I need to, don't I?
You need to because the basic gist of it is a year after Hamilton came out, as a way to like celebrate it, Lynn got all of the biggest musicians in the world at that point in time to remake all the songs.
Okay.
So some of them are direct ports, like where they just like you've got Usher singing Wait For It.
Oh yeah, now, I'm gonna have to. Yeah.
For the record, Odom's is better than Usher's.
Oh, well, I wouldn't be surprised about that because let me tell you something about Aaron Burr. I could understand. Like I know everyone is supposed to be like Hamilton, yes, like liberation and independence, but I could feel as an adult, as a parent, as like I was just like I understand this character. I mean, not the killing Hamilton part, but like I understood him, and I was like, I get him.
I think we identify with Burr a lot more than we do with Hamilton in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But with the mixtape, you've got all that. You've got Kelly Clarkson singing "Quiet Uptown," and it's haunting
so much.
It's haunting. And so you've got like Chance the Rapper. You've got like Busta Rhymes and Nas. You've got the Roots. You've got like literally about everybody that you could possibly picture as being at the height of their game at 2016 is on this thing.
That's awesome.
But then so like on Wrote My Way Out and One Shot, they completely rewrote the songs. So you like not One Shot. What's it called? I'm not throwing away my shot. Like
I knew what you meant.
yeah. They completely rewrote that to where it's like Nas and Busta Rhymes with completely different verses. Wow. But then on Wrote My Way Out, Lynn has brand new verses, where it's him actually trying to rap, not theatrical rap.
Yeah.
And so one of the lines, and I was just talking with my daughter today because we made a mixtape before we left because we're still a mixtape family. And we're running around today, and I let them pick, and I was like, guys, we can't listen to all Hamilton. We have to like mix this up. And
But why,
there's this
Dad? Why?
there's this line where because my 12-year-old has watched half of Rent. We haven't made it to the other half just for time's sake. And like there's one of the lines on Lynn's new version of Rode My Way Out where he's like running out of time like Jonathan Lawson's rent check. And like every time I hear it, like it kind of gut punches me.
Oh, yeah, wow.
And I literally, I was like, man, this makes me sad every time. And I was like, and Rose is like, why? And I'm like, Jonathan Lawson's the guy who wrote Rent, and he died before he ever got to see the full success of his show.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, that's horrible. But like Lynn throws it out like a burn. He's like running out of time like Jonathan's lost Rent's check. It's like, that's douchey. But all that being said, like the Hamilton's good. The last podcast I was a guest on was like one of the guys we were talking. He's like, man, Hamilton's the worst, and I'm like, what?
Wait, what?
He's like, I made it. He said he made it through 20 minutes of the show. And
Yeah, that's what my mom said, and I'm like, okay, you're not a theater person, first of all. I can, okay, I understand that. I understand that, but like, I'm like, can you just let, like, if you get past George Washington, like, you're in. Like, if you get past that song and you're okay. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
He's like, I was like, I tried to convince him because like the podcast went like over like 30 minutes extra of their time limit because I went on a rant about Hamilton, and I went on a rant about Clone Wars. And I was like, guys, don't talk to me about these things unless you want to go over. So on that, because you've talked about your theatrical, you've mentioned, and I know more about your background, but for everybody else, tell us about your theater background.
Okay. Theater, actually, my very, very first role was in first grade. It was Tortoise and the Hare. I was the squirrel. I had one line, but my biological mother, who has passed away. So it gets a little confusing. I call my stepmom my mom because she's been my mom for over 20 years, and she was the mother of the bride at the wedding and everything. But anyway, my actual mother made me this ridiculously ornate costume. Like all the other kids had like the Halloween costumes, like with the plastic masks. And like I have this full lush tail that my mother made me to be the gray squirrel. I think that's when I got my first, like I was first bit by the theater bug. And then I found out also that it's a really good way to deal with stress in your life. And that was sort of through my parents' divorce. Like that was like I guess you could say my saving grace, because I was not actually saved at that point. So it was theater. I just found out that I liked to do it, and I was pretty good at it. I was getting cast, so I must not have sucked. And it was time away from my family, and it was time in a different world. And that was a good thing for me. And then I threw away my college education by taking theater classes. I was going to be a secondary English ed major was my goal, because of course, like most theater people, one of the most influential teachers in my high school career was my English teacher. I'm gonna do a shout out, Mrs. Petronsky. She was fantastic, and I loved her. And then I decided when I got there and I got to see the theater building that I was going to not throw away my shot, I guess you could say. I decided to double major in English.
I have to pay Lin-Manuel Miranda like $5 now.
I know. I do have to do that, don't I? Like, take my money. My children love you. Like, I just want to play date with his kids because his sons and my sons are the same age.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, can they just sit like with your children for a few minutes? Like, that's all I want. Like, I don't need a dinner with you or coffee with you or anything. I'm like, just let my children sit with your children, please. But I went to college and I did a double major. So I did theater performance, and I did English writing was my other major, which is of course why I worked for a major coffee company for 5 years outside of college, because that's what you do when you have a theater degree. I loved it though. I loved it. And I wouldn't actually go back and trade it for anything, because one of the beautiful things about being in collegiate theater is you get to do things that you would probably never be cast for in the professional world. I am very short, and I got a lot of the roles that were the supporting actress roles and the comedic actress roles, which like they're way more fun. They're way more fun than the ingenue parts anyway. Like who, I mean, I don't know. I just I liked them. It was a lot of fun to be those kind of roles. I was Fräulein Schneider in Cabaret, and that was probably one of my favorite roles. But I don't know where I'm going with this. Give me a minute here. We may have
What's
to
your
pause
What's your
this.
dream role?
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I can tell you what it's not. It's not Eponine in Les Mis. I will tell you that it is not Eponine in Les Mis. Um, Honestly, I wanted to play Maureen in Rent for a long time. Right now, I would go classic, and I would have to say Beatrice in Much Ado About Nothing.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I would probably say. I mean, I pretended like I liked Shakespeare in high school, but then I actually realized I really did like Shakespeare in college. I also realized in college that Shakespeare is not this like holy relic of theater. Like he was trashy. Like, I
Did,
mean, if you actually read anything he wrote,
did you watch Doctor Who? Are you a Whovian?
I am a Whovian.
Okay.
Nine is actually my doctor. I know that's not a popular thing to say, but
I
Nine
know
is
a lot of nine folks. So,
yeah.
like, I feel like Who's representation of Shakespeare was probably pretty accurate.
Oh, I loved it. I loved it. And of course, I loved Van Gogh as well. That one, like, oh my gosh, I can't even think about that episode. I might have a moment.
But I think I started my my first theater break, air quotes, was I was doing tech. I did tech for the Wiz. And like all the kids that grew up, like when you stayed home sick or whatever, you watch like Wheel of Fortune
Price is
or
Right.
Price is Right. And
Yes.
but for me, my other go-to was like just watching musicals on AMC. Like
Mm,
back
I used
when
to love AMC. Now I
back
don't
when
even know. I don't know. It's not the same. It's not the same
back
anymore.
when AMC actually was American Movie Classics. And MTV played music. But like so
Pop up video on VH1. I love pop up video.
so I saw Guys and Dolls a million times on AMC, and I freaking loved it. Nicely Johnson was my jam. I'm like, look, a fat funny person, I can do that.
Character rules, yay!
That was what I wanted, and so like I went out. I was literally already doing tech for the show. I'd already signed up for that, and I was like, I'm gonna go in here and do Sit Down, You're Rocking the Boat for kicks and giggles. And I was turning like 15, or I was heading towards 16, so I was trying to be cute for girls at that point too. So I was like, let me go in here in front of all these theater girls and pull out my nicely Johnson and flex my nerd. And I got cast as Nathan Detroit, and I'm like, what? So I went for Nicely and got Nathan, and I was mad the whole way through that I didn't get to sing Sit Down, You're Rocking the Boat. And like I got a main role and it was dope, but I was like,
You
oh
got
man.
cast, like, yeah.
But I had pretty much harbored on all of the comedic roles. Like I was the king in Once Upon a Time in a Once Upon a Mattress. Um, I was Puck. I was, I did all of the comedic roles. I was the one goofy T-bird that mooned people in Greece.
Was that Duty? That was Duty. You were
It was
Duty.
Duty or Sunny.
Dude, I don't know.
I don't remember which one it was, but
So interchangeable in the show. I mean, come
they
on.
really were. And that was actually I had met my wife at that point in time. Like you mentioned AIM earlier. We met on AIM
That's
uh,
romantic.
on an AOL chat room
See?
because I had moved home from Bible college after a horrible breakup, and I was after all, I was also on their touring theatrical worship performance drama team thing.
There you
And,
go.
I had a horrible breakup. I moved back to North Carolina and was looking for Christians on AOL within a 45-minute window, and just to be friends with. I wasn't even like scouting, and then I met her, and like we talked for like 2 months, but like she had moved to ECU, which is like a 3-hour difference, and I was like, well, cool, goodbye. This is 1999, 2000. I was like 3 hours and pre cell phones. I was like, this ain't gonna work. And then she showed up to see me in Greece. And I'm like, literally your first time seeing me, I'm mooning you on stage with my sweaty boxers. And this is, beautiful. Cause like my boxers said like, I love Jan with like a big red heart. And so like, it was a horrible life choice. Like I actually, took the sweaty theater boxers and turned the J into a D and gave them to her on a date or like somewhere in there. And she's like, "Are these the ones you wore?"
Like, no, I just found these ones.
Yeah. And I don't know what I was pretty stoked about doing Cowardly Lion, and so I think that was a dream role, and so hopefully that'll still happen in the future. But for you, like you had talked earlier about starting your touring with churches and doing your things. So what's your goal with that? Like what's your heart with that?
Okay, well, we have here at Berean, and like I said earlier, it's been on hiatus this year. It was going to go on hiatus anyway because I had other projects that I wanted to work on, but then COVID, so my decision was made for me. But we have a group here called Troop 412. And the 412 is obviously our, area code, but it also stands for, Exodus 412, which a lot of people are like, wait a minute, what? Don't you mean Timothy? I'm like, no, actually Exodus.
That and you said 412 before, I straight thought it was Timothy too.
So. I know, right? Well, I mean, that's like part of it, but like where I got my inspiration was Exodus 412 is God talking to Moses. He says, go, I will give you the words to speak.
Hey.
Right. Like go talk to Pharaoh, like be brave and listen to what I'm telling you. Cause I'm not going to leave you. Like I'm going with you to talk for you, use my words. So up until, this year, we would meet every week on Tuesday nights. We met here at the church for a while, and then we moved it to my house after I had kids, and I realized like, oh, I can't really manage this. So just put them to bed and act in the basement. And it's mostly kids from the church here, but I also had some folks from other churches, and we would do, skits that I wrote for the church. We would do them for special events. Last year we actually had our very first like non-Christian themed event where I found for the kids monologues and scenes that were actually in like public domain for theater because we cannot afford to pay royalties at this. We don't have a budget. Like literally my budget is like what I can find in my closet for costumes and like Wet and Wild cosmetics, like the dollar eyeliner stuff. That's what we have. We actually were able to raise almost $600 for the group, which has gone to like, buying supplies, and we put money towards a microphone and things like that. But it was like a full length, variety show evening that we did, just my kids. And I was so proud of them. Like they worked really hard. We did something from Shakespeare. We actually did the Death of Paris. That was a lot of fun because one of my students actually, I don't know if Ben is going to watch this, but Ben is a stage combat artist. So like we got like the swords out and actually had a legitimate sword fight on stage, which was so cool. And can I tell you, you're a theater mom when your child, you're at the time he was 5, walks down the stairs, sees full body armor laying on the couch and is like, oh, is that Mr. Ben's? Like not even phased at all. I'm like, oh yeah, that's his. He's like, is that for the sword fight? I'm like, yeah. He's like, cool. Walks away. I love it. I have a whole closet in my like house just dedicated to costumes, and the kids have their own trunk. So we do a lot of dress up time. But anyway, that's me working with the kids within our church. I got a chance also last year to work with the younger kids. It was for kids ages 7 to 11, and it was an actual like open class for the community. And we talked about, the origins of theater. We talked about, stage kind of words, director's words, actor's words. And then we talked about different roles that people can play on stage. And then the kids actually recreated their own fairy tale for their parents to watch, at the very end. That was super interesting. super, super interesting. But my goal, what I would love to be able to do is to go into churches and actually, I even have a series of workshops. Like we can talk about the history of theater. We can talk about what the church did to try to destroy theater and why they may have done it. I mean, theater did not have very auspicious beginnings. I mean, it was created out of worship for a god of wine, which, might rattle some people if you want to look at it that way. I'd love to be able to go in and help them understand, get everyone on the same page, especially for people that do not have a theatrical background, using the same language, using theatrical language to help communicate, that jargon is important. It's really important. Plus it sounds really cool. I also would love to go in and help people that already have established theater groups, help them use their space to the best of their ability, help them, choose scripts to the best of their ability, or even write if they have writers in house to really write for the audience they're trying to communicate with, trying to reach. There's so many different things. I would love to do improv workshops. That's something actually I've been talking to our youth group. We have a new youth group leader here, and we're pairing with another church right now because both groups are pretty small. And so we're going to do a youth improv night where I'm just going to go and we're going to play improv games and, get to know each other better and get more comfortable with each other and get more comfortable sharing our stories and being a little vulnerable in front of our, people that we trust and love. And I love that theater is such a valuable tool, not in just for sharing the gospel, but in educating others. And I personally someday would absolutely love to have an actual theater troupe, like professional theater troupe, maybe not even affiliated with a church. Because I have found, and I have written a lot of really bad, schlocky, Christian theme. Christian entertainment can get really, I don't know if your listeners are going to be okay with this, but Christian entertainment can be so bad.
Oh, it's the worst.
It's so bad. It's so bad. It's so corny. And it's okay, I don't know about you. I personally know some atheists. They're not stupid. They're not mean. They're not nasty. They're not evil. They're actually some of the kindest people I've ever met. And I hate seeing atheists and non-Christians portrayed in these dastardly kind of comedic villain. And I'm also, I don't know about you, but I've known a lot of Christians that do really stupid things, say really stupid things, or make really bad choices. And I don't know. I hate, oh my gosh, I feel so bad saying this, but I hate Christian entertainment. Not all of it. So, I mean,
it's hard to find Christian entertainment that's not terrible. And realistically, I don't know that there's been better Christian entertainment than VeggieTales in the last 20 years.
Dude, okay, I shared this on my podcast. My mother, I was 25. My mother made me a birthday cake and she put Bob and Larry on it, in homemade frosting. and I cannot tell you, that is what I remember, my mom doing. We did not have the relationship that I would have liked to have. But that woman, she's trying to reach out to me. She's like, I know that you love VeggieTales and Jesus. So here's a cake with a tomato and a cucumber on it.
Similar note, my
good too.
My family at that point in time, when I turned 25, got me a straight up Food Lion Batman cake.
Yes.
With the little party masks and everything, and I'm just like, the crap are you guys on? What are you doing? But no, it's Christian entertainment is hard, and making good art that actually is excellent art is a better way to actually convey a solid message spiritually than just slapping a label.
No, here's another confession that I don't know if I should be saying this in a church. I don't listen to K-Love. I don't hate, I know, oh my gosh. I don't hate Christian, contemporary Christian music, but I feel personally, if I hear a U2 song, to me, what they're sharing, I mean, we're talking about the older stuff. I don't know about the newer stuff, but I've been talking about, Where the Streets Have No Name, and just that to me says so much more about connecting to God and being real and honest than so much of what I hear in contemporary Christian music. And I can't, I'm not putting it down because I'm glad that it's available. I'm so grateful that it's available. And it is something that is safe for people to listen to, and it is encouraging. But
They're not lying. It is positive and it is encouraging.
it is, and I mean, like, trust me, there's some stuff I like. I mean, I'm not like
No,
anti-Halo, but like, I feel a lot more connected. And I know it's not all about like me feeling, which is why like you're never going to hear me say like of the worship team, like, oh, I wish they wouldn't do, like, I love our worship team here. And I love listening to worship teams because like, you know, I mean, that's how you connect. That is how you get into the corporate, that place of just like, we're all worshiping and we're all listening to the same thing. And we just love Jesus together. I love that. And I'm never going to put that down. When I personally am on my own, when I'm having my moments, whatever those moments may be, whether it's in prayer or frustration or just downtime, I'm going to be listening to something that speaks to my poet soul, because I used to write poetry. It's not, I don't anymore because it was bad, but I still identify with poetry. Does that make any sense? You know, like when it comes to the Bible, the book of Isaiah, I consider one of the most poetic books, even more so than Psalms sometimes.
Oh yeah.
And when I read those, like they sound like lyrics to me. When I read those verses, they sound like lyrics, and they're so artistic and so graceful and so cutting at the same time. That's the kind of thing I want to hear when I'm trying to process my own emotions, my own prayer life, my own thought life, my own everything. I just like, that's what I need to listen to. So yeah, I like classic rock. All right, I do. I like classic rock. I like 80s new wave pop. And
You would have fun at my biker night on Thursdays.
you have a biker night? That's awesome.
I don't personally. There's a establishment in my town that hosts basically a mini bike rally every Thursday.
Oh, that's so cool.
And they hire me to DJ it.
Up here.
And so I DJ it, and there's like a gas station next to the place that's run down. And so they put me on a hill, like I'm a good 8 feet above everybody else. So I'm like DJing from like on high, looking down at people. I'm just playing classic rock.
You play Bon Jovi, don't you?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. I have at least 6 out of a 4-hour rotation. I have at least 6 Bon Jovi songs. I know You Give Love a Bad Name is in there.
Oh my gosh.
But that's one of the things, like I pastored college students for like a decade, and hearing what connected to them spiritually versus what was put out for them was a totally different thing. And I remember it was 2009, and there was a student who was heavy into music, like he produced beats, he did music, and I just remember seeing his Facebook post of saying, why is there more spiritual truth in Mumford & Sons' Sign No More album than anything I've heard on Christian radio in my life? Yeah. And I was like, at that point, I had not heard a Mumford & Sons song. But I literally, based on that one Facebook post, downloaded that album immediately and just sat there and listened. I was like, oh crap, he's right. And there are these things is like when truth is conveyed with excellence, you know, there's a chance for people to see the heart of it. And, you know, I literally, you know, I'm in my auditorium for our church service. And like directly to my right is our stage area. And I literally sat on the foot of our stage on Sunday and told our worship team, I was like, look guys, because we were running low on our production team and everything else with COVID and everything else. Yeah. And I was like, guys, like we're broadcasting the 9 o'clock service live. I don't care if you mess up. I don't care if somebody has a bad note. I'd give 2 craps about that. I was like, if your heart's in the right place and you're doing it with excellence, great. You know, I was like, I'm more concerned with, I was quoting Amos 5 about like, don't give me your stupid festivals and songs. I want justice and righteousness. Because that's one of been my big worship things, is that God's more impressed with righteousness and justice than festivals and stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
But like, things like Mumford & Sons' first 2 albums, a lot of 21 Pilots music. I meant the fact that K-Love still only plays 2 Switchfoot songs out of 20 years. And they put out a million times better stuff than, you know, like Meant to Live and what's the one that they put out that actually Love Alone Is Worth the Fight are the only 2 songs of Switchfoot they play, and they're not the best.
Like even Toby Mac. Like, and I mean, Toby Mac was controversial, not really anymore, but like, I'm like, girl, please, like, I don't know. I don't want this to become like this. This is like, this is that episode of the podcast where he bashed Caleb. No, I'm like I said, I'm so glad that it's available. I'm truly grateful. You know, we actually used to help fund it in our area. I feel more and I experience more, and I mean, at the risk of sounding like sort of hippie, like, I guess I can commune with the spirit in me that God put in me when I listen to different kinds of music other than like CCM.
I'm going to send you, I don't know if have you ever seen one of U2's original interviews back in the 70s where
You know what? I probably have read about it. But no, I don't think I ever saw
there's a
it.
video of it, and I want to say it's in the early 70s, where Bono straight up says, we want to bring all the glory to Jesus Christ we can by being the best rock band on the planet.
That's awesome.
And
And I think something this kind of goes along with what you're saying, like, we as Christians, like, we like to label things, like it has to be like Christian music or like a Christian novel or, you know, whatever. And it, you know, by that token, it suddenly becomes something that it's not. Like, this is going to be hard for me to explain. You'll probably want to edit this a little bit, but I feel like exactly what you said, like, do it with excellence, do what you've been given with talent. That's a big thing with my theater kids. Like, we talk about the talents. That's sort of like my, I don't know, like if I were a traveling minister, like that would be the message I'd be sharing, at least my first loop of the country, you know, is when you have a talent that God gave you, you don't bury it, you invest it. And that depends on what the talent that you have is. Like, okay, for me it's theater, for me it's writing. What do? I can take theater courses, I can audition for shows, I can take writing courses, I can have my friends and my peers sort of edit my work and critique my work and learn how to improve it, you know. And that's something that I really shared with my kids. And I said, even if you don't know what your talent is, like, the reason that you're surrounded with the church family is they're going to help you discover it. Like, that's part of our job as mentors. And like, even if we're not official elders in the church, like, for those of us that are more mature or veteran Christians, now that we're old Zennials, we can say we're old. That's our job, is to help people discover their talents and then use them for God, whatever that's going to look like. And we've gotten into this, habit of sort of boxing things up. Like, I don't want to be a Christian actor. I want to be an actor who does what I do for the glory of God, even if I'm playing roles that are maybe a little dicey. I mean, I played some roles in college that I would not do now. Rocky Horror Show comes to mind. Wouldn't do that again. I don't think.
By the way, did you know that the guy who wrote Rocky Horror Show is
Richard O'Brien?
Yeah, he's the dad in Phineas and Ferb.
What? I did not know.
I found this out yesterday because he was on Doofenshmirtz's TikTok and they were hanging around. So the guy, Riff Raff, that Richard O'Brien, the guy who wrote Rocky Horror, he's the dad from Phineas and Ferb.
That's revelatory. Now I feel like somehow like I've achieved some type of enlightenment now that I know that. Oh my gosh. But anyway, just when we feel the need to categorize something, we put a different set of values on it, and we also put on it this like what you were saying about Christian entertainment. It suddenly doesn't need to be good if it can be consumed.
We don't have to hold it to artistic excellence.
Yeah.
As long as we can slap a Christian label on it. It's I don't know your dietary life.
I have a kid that only eats cheese, so there you go. If you want to know.
But it's the same thing when it comes to stuff like vegan or gluten-free or whatever. It doesn't have to taste good as long as you can put that label on it.
Yeah.
And Christian entertainment is basically the vegan entertainment, because
I can see what you're saying with it. I mean,
we don't care if it's good as long as it fits our criteria.
Yeah, yeah, it doesn't matter because someone will purchase it and consume it.
There you
You
go.
know, and I happen to actually like I like vegan food. I'm not a vegan. I am not a vegan. However, I do remember I had a roommate in college. I love her so much. Oh my gosh, I love her. She briefly went vegan for a time. I think it was sort of like I think it was more spiritual for her than actual like physical. But she brought home this cheese, and we had a shared. Now, granted, this was in 2003-ish. Vegan food has come a long way since then. I
Oh,
will vouch
leaps
for
and
it.
bounds, leaps and bounds.
Oh my gosh, this was cheese, and it was like, well, I mean, it was cheese, like in quotes. And I tried it. So I was like being brave and like, mind opening and stuff. It was, oh my gosh, I can't, like, all I can think of is licking the wrapper of like a cheese product, like Velveeta. Like you're licking the wrapper of a Velveeta, and that's like what it tasted like. But you're actually chewing the wrapper too. It was so bad. It was so bad. But yes, no, you're absolutely right that like we can create a product that is has minimal nutrition in it, as long as someone's gonna consume it. Someone's gonna buy it because they see the label that's on it. They see that it's Christian or that it's family friendly. um I family friendly is a dangerous term. First of all, because it means so many different things nowadays.
Oh, absolutely.
But you think it can be consumable by anyone, and that's not always the case. I'm learning. Anyway, but yeah, we can just um, not worry about quality, and that as an artist, that like breaks my heart.
Well, on
That
the other end of the spectrum, we're so worried about keeping things within our own label that we ignore quality when we see it.
Yeah, yes, yeah. And I'm definitely not saying that people should, ignore their spirits and go see, movies that are not, that don't sit well with their spirit. I mean, like my husband is the kind of person who like violent, this sounds so bad, but like violent movies, like war movies and stuff, they don't bother him. He can see a movie like that and get something valuable out of it without like that being really difficult for him to watch. I am the kind of person where like that's how I feel about, how do I want to put this? Like I can't watch movies with sex. Like I can't. I can't watch raunchy jokes. I can't watch like I just, that is something that to me is not appealing. It never has been appealing. So I'm probably going to watch a violent movie with my husband before I'm going to watch something that's like PG-13 that's just trashy.
Yeah.
I think we do have to be responsive to our spirits and to the spirit of God within us. But I agree, there is stuff out there that needs to be seen, needs to be watched, and that because it has that PG-13 or that R, we're automatically, I can't be a part of that.
And that's, I think that's a whole separate Christian subculture too. I think there's a different branch of people who have already even past what we're talking about, but there's still a whole world that's hung up. And a lot of them are the same people that you're talking about reaching with your podcast, the ones that are hurt and disenfranchised.
Yeah.
Um, Wrapping up, just because I don't want to kill people. What is, if this is your only time ever getting to share with anybody, if the people listening or watching to this never hear from you again,
All right.
what's the one thing you would want to leave with them?
That's like really deep. Um, it would honestly be that there's no way God can love you any less or any more than he does right now. There's nothing that you can do to change that. And it's okay to not be able to understand that and still accept it. Um, because his love is life-changing, and you're worth it, not because of who you are, but because he created you and he loves you and he wants you to succeed more than you want to succeed. That's what I would say. Obviously, success to God is different than success that we define in our world today. It
Absolutely.
is. But by God's definition of success, I guarantee that he wants you to be successful more than you want to be successful. That's what I would say.
That's big. If people want to check out your stuff, Where can they find your podcast? What's it
Um,
called?
it is
Again.
hosted. It is hosted on Podbean. It is retrofitted. Hold on, I can't spell. I have a degree in English and I cannot spell. RETROF as in Frank, ITTED. I also do have a Facebook page. It is Retrofitted Podcast. Or you can send me a message at retrofittedpodcast@gmail.com. I'm also like, I would be happy to hear if anyone has any ideas that they want to share about, favorite things they grew up with or challenges they've faced. Like that would be a whole nother session with you. But I sent out a message to my fellow Zennials and I asked them like, what are the problems you're dealing with? One of the number one things was student loan debt and debt of all kinds. So that was super interesting. I'll be talking about that at some point more in detail.
If people were to only listen to one episode of your podcast to get a taste, which one should they listen to?
Okay, I would probably say episode 3. That has a healthy balance of seriousness and less than seriousness.
That was the Leia and Jim one, right? Or
hold on, oh my gosh, now I can't. Now I'm gonna second guess myself.
I listened to them in one chunk, so they kind of bled together.
I know. Yeah, you'll probably want to tweak this too because I don't remember now, and I would need to look it up. The one I discussed, Miriam.
Okay, sweet.
And I'm pretty sure that's episode 3.
Okay.
So yeah, I'll check that out. But I guess if they want to see, if they want to see as true and as vulnerable as I get, I would say the episode 7, I talk about my mom a little bit, my not as great relationship with my mom. And episode 8, I also discuss, I use the words of some of my peers who have struggled with mental health illnesses. And I think it's very telling that I use their own words. I've directly from their mouths. And it's very eye-opening. So that would be, I would say episode 3 and then episodes 7 and 8.
And
yes.
You also have a jewelry company.
I do. I like to make pretty things too. Yeah, that is on Facebook and also Etsy. Actually, it's much easier to go through my Etsy store. It's called Becky's Bangles, PGH, because Pittsburgh. And also because Becky's Bangles was already taken by someone else who isn't me. So I just added the PGH. But yeah, no, I love to do custom pieces. I do have some geek jewelry out there. I particularly love to do awareness pieces. I have so many friends that, I've mentioned mental health a lot, that's a green awareness ribbon. That's probably my number one selling custom item is mental health awareness jewelry. But I've done colon cancer awareness. I have done ADHD awareness. The reason I love to do those pieces is because sometimes life gets so insane, but like you look down and just like my wedding ring is always a reminder that I'm married to my husband and I picked him. Or he picked me, let's be honest. Like he picked me. The man picked me. Having that bracelet on your wrist is also a reminder that like someone is thinking of you, someone cares about you, and someone doesn't want you to feel alone with whatever the challenges that you're going through. And that's really, really important to me. Because I spent, a lot of my teenage years feeling alone. Like I know I wasn't, but it may have made a difference to me, something like that back then. So that's my favorite thing to do, but I take custom orders. And Christmas is coming up. So, a very COVID Christmas, you can still have stuff made and sent to your friends and family. So just putting that out there. Yeah, so I'll be sending your kids something this week.
And for y'all listening, the links to her podcast and her Facebook page and her Etsy store will all be in the podcast notes. If you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube, all the links will also be there and in the audio if you're picking this off Podbean or one of the other audio sources.
Thank you so much. But honestly, we've been talking about me a lot. I know that's sort of the purpose of this. But Pastor Hector, I have to thank you because I think I think the best way to say it is I'm kind of a fangirl of yours. The first book I bought of yours and read was Flocked Up. And I immediately shared it with, I was teaching youth that week. And like, I immediately felt the need to share it with the youth group. Um, I mean, I hope it made an impact on them. They're good kids. So, and they're still good kids. So yay. But I love the fact that you do have a heart for the geek. You know, we're cool now, but we weren't cool years ago. We were definitely the underdogs and sort of the outsiders in society. And I love that you not only address the geek, but you celebrate the geek. And just like we'd said earlier, you're able to find Christ in so many books and movies and comics and manga and everything out there. And I think that's a gateway for a lot of people. And I think that's really, really valuable. And so I thank you for that. And I cannot wait till the next book is the kids book, right? Because I'm totally buying that for my 6-year-old. Is that the plan?
It depends on how fast Vincent draws. Because I am in the probably going to start like actually writing. Like,
You're in the thinking. Are you still in the thinking phase?
yeah, well, I've been thinking of, am I even going to bother doing this? That's the phase I've been in right now. But if I'm not going to start on book schedule, I'll at least start putting it on blog format
Awesome.
for now. But as long as Vincent gets these things drawn before June, yes.
All right,
Kids' books are next.
You know what? Because my kid's birthday. Okay, that's perfect. All right, I'm gonna put that down emotionally. Gotta get it all set up. That I'm gonna tell my kid about this in a year. I'll tell him about it in a year. So then that gives you time. Like that gives you time.
I talked to him the other day. He's like, I think I'm gonna just redo all of book one. I'm like, no, just put it out. Let's go. Because he drew the whole book. Apparently all of book one for the kids series is drawn.
Awesome.
But he's like, I think I like my style better, so I'm just gonna start it over. And I'm like,
oh my gosh, that's a man after my own heart, though. Like, because that's how I operate. Like, if I cannot get it just right, like I don't know. We're gonna redo the whole thing. Like, I don't edit. I just redo it all from scratch.
No. I'm like, God bless this mess. It's out. But yeah, that's the next thing. But thank you. That really does mean a lot. And just watching the way you care for people and the way you've encouraged the people God has blessed to put in your life, it's been a blessing to me. And your podcast has done a big encouragement work in my life. And I look forward to having you back on here again. And we can talk about
definitely
more things.
Maybe I'll try to sound more professional next time. I don't know.
Professional is okay. It has its moments.
I'll be acting if I sound professional. It won't be real. It'll be pretend.
I like just good conversation, so I'm good with that.
That's awesome.
We can do a podcast where all we do is speak Hamilton quotes and try and have a whole conversation.
That's like, I'm game. I'm down for that. Like, okay, seriously. I mean, it's gonna keep coming back to Hamilton. That's fine. Like my 3-year-old now, I said to him, it was this morning, I'm like, what's your name, man? And this little tiny voice, Alexander Hamilton. I'm so proud of him. I love it.
Well, thank you for being here with us today. And again, y'all can check out all of the links for Rebecca's stuff. And Rebecca, seriously, thank you again for being here with us today.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. You're so welcome. And thank you.